I feel like a pretty good tell, or thing that gives away the final positive or negative. Now, it doesn't give away the exact review, is whether or not I'm wearing merchandise for the said thing that I'm talking about. But I can't help it. Doug is cool. Love that dog. And so, like I said, it's not going to be challenging to assume that Oz from the channel Mr. Super Oz, that I enjoyed the movie Up from 2009, which ran 1 hour and 36 minutes. So, after the open rolls here, just how much I enjoyed Up. I took 6 pages worth of notes, but the biggest takeaway from said notes, in my opinion, is the first couple of words, which is I forgot. So, most people, anybody I believe who has seen Up, remembers the opening of the film, that first, 12 to 15 minutes, where we see young Carl, meet young Ellie and their lives play out. Because not only is it genuinely sweet, it also gets quite heart wrenching as they are living through hard times. But the thing that I forgot was that the villain, the madman, the crazy guy that Carl and Russell will contend with, Charles Muntz, who is seen later on with an army of dogs that aren't kind to Doug, is established right away. Almost before even, not even almost, he's established before anybody else, before Carl, before Ellie, before Russell, before Doug. Charles Muntz is the first character that is clearly laid out because Carl is watching a black and white film reel talking about the top stories in the news. And with that, we then lead into Carl and Ellie's adventures because Charles Muntz is an adventurer. And I thought that tie-in that I forgot was so well executed and seamless, which is what made it so, I don't want to say forgettable because that sounds negative, but so natural that it didn't stand out like a sore thumb. It just blended right into the story as it was happening, which I think is quite the compliment to setting up the groundwork. I know I was on a podcast with, I'm going to say, 3 or 4 people maybe. Could be a little more, could be a little less, something like that. And one of the folks brought up how that there were a couple of characters in Everlasting Survivors that they didn't quite understand. And so I get that, but if I hadn't had them there from the start, I was afraid that when their relevance was revealed later, it would be like, okay, I see that they have an important role, but where have they been? Why are they here? And so I just thought that the Pixar team did such a good job of setting up the Charles Muntz character, his motivations, and how that Kevin and Doug and all these characters fit within the context of the story. But it's actually the opening minutes, those, I'm going to say 10 to 11, 12 minutes, whatever it was, where we see Ellie and Carl's life playing out, is what kind of made me avoid the movie for quite some time as far as rewatching, because the thing that stood out was the pain not so much the intelligence of the team putting the movie together. And because the internet does what the internet does, I saw a theory that the man in charge of the crew that was building all around Carl and Ellie's home, and wanting to take it over is actually, or could conceptually, be Russell's father that we never officially meet, but is spoken of as for his motivation, Russell's, in wanting to get all these badges to try and get his father to show up and give him that time that is so valuable. I mean, obviously, time itself is so. I think it might be the most precious commodity. You know, everybody's like, oh, we're in the pursuit of money, but legitimately, let's say that you get a large influx of money. You get the lottery. You hit the lottery, and what does that really mean? Well, what it does is it changes perspective to where that you no longer are mandated or have to go to a place, especially a place that you don't enjoy, to get money to pay other people for things that either you needed or desired. And so that's why I'm like, man, Russell's pursuit of his father's time is just showing how the father's character, whether it be the man in the suit for the area that's developing around Carl's home, or any other father. It didn't have to be that man. It just has to be anyone, or that mindset remains regardless of his occupation. That making the conscious choice to be away or prioritize something over your child is like, well, that's going to have consequences. And the said consequence of Russell's father being out of the picture, to me, in this story, is so visibly and perfectly illustrated when Carl feels that he has no other choice but to fly away with his home. Thank you for being here at Mr. Super Oz. This video is going out, and this channel only exists because I, Oz, founded Gamble Comics, which first release was Everlasting Survivors, a 68-page graphic novel called All Day Long. Available now. Follow the link in the description that will take you to gamblecomics.com. While there, you can get hats, shirts, posters, much, much more, but most importantly, the story itself. Russell making the choice to try and impress his father is on or under around Carl's home as it takes off. And that is what leads to this quite ludicrous, but in the best possible way, adventure between these unlikely allies of Russell and Carl, because who'd have thought that these two were the dynamic duo, if you will, because Russell is so genuinely kind and Carl is so pained and jaded given all that he has experienced and is currently going through with the potential loss of him and Ellie's home. And he's very, I'm not going to say materialistic, but he imbues the feelings he has for his lost wife into this property that they had built together. And I feel that I feel that him projecting his feelings toward her onto the home slash property within it is so clearly illustrated later on as the film plays out, because when Russell is in distress and Carl needs to use the home to go help him, it's him coming to terms with the stuff not being a realistic representation of his wife or his love, and him letting it go to go save a real person, as opposed to the memories that he put in or has with his wife who's no longer with him. Because the fact is, the memories will remain, but the stuff wasn't required to have the memories. And so I thought that was very powerful. The whole Charles Munt's character being so driven to prove his theories, his points, the things that he said were the case in the black and white newsreel that Carl had seen and Elliot also enjoyed. I thought his drive really proved that while drive is a good thing, much like Russell's father, the direction at which you drive, the way that you use such or the way that you use your drive can determine whether or not drive is good or bad, because just like literal driving, if you're speeding and being dangerous, that's bad. Just like this drive, the drive to feel justified in Muntz's case, or the drive to have more is what I assume, especially if that businessman is Russell's father, the drive to just have or to prove or drive can turn into obsession, and the thing that you are driven toward or obsessed with isn't necessarily good, while drive itself can be good depending on if it's taken in the right way. And so it's just, to me, it's very interesting the the depth at which a seemingly, especially due to advertising, a seemingly lighthearted, given all the balloons and the floating away advertising can be. It's interesting to me the depth at which a animated film can have. The idea that Muntz's drive makes his in the right more important than Kevin, the disbelieved bird's life or family, is interesting. I think that like I said, the drive of Carl to keep his word to Ellie that, the house will be in the place, when realistically, I don't think that it was as much about the house being in a particular spot as it more was her and his love of the adventure together. And I thought that was highly proven from her scrapbook. While, yes, she kept the memory that she wanted that to happen, she saw so many things that they had done as her lifelong adventure. And is that not in and of itself valuable? My goodness. The idea that it was important. Like, it wasn't all for nothing. Because early on you can definitely see or perceive and understand Carl's perspective, the idea of like, well, we didn't do the thing that we wanted, and we couldn't have the thing that so many others get. And so his bitterness is very, while not good, definitely it's a it's a thing that can easily be understood. And then his reawakening, his new understanding with seeing Muntz go the wrong way, and then also understanding that Russell is a positive in his life. Man, just Carl's perspective change was so perfectly executed. And that's why I give up a perfect 7 out of 5 stars score. Like, so many times, even things that I forgot about or didn't expect to hit as hard as they did hit. And when something emotionally resonates, like, I can't help but to go above the good or the great, like, and just there was a part of me at times where I was like, oh, maybe it's spectacular, but I was like, no, this thing is it's perfect. I don't know how that I would have been able to do it better, and with that, I I definitely recommend that if you haven't watched Up, prepare to be taken on a ride, not just visually, but definitely emotionally, because Up is it's one of those Pixar films that it just does everything so well and so unexpectedly. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and come back all week for more content from Mr. Super Oz.